Welcome to my views and news, and update for you on the situation in North Shewa Amhara region. What is happening there? Any fighting, any large scale clashes between Ethiopian army and Fano fighters. Secondly, Ethiopian government is trying to cut off all funding to Amhara organizations like Amhara Student Association, Amhara Youth Association. A letter has been written by federal police to banks. And thirdly, while we're seeing deployment of Ethiopian army in Amhara region and clashes ongoing in some places, some fighters are surrendering. State media is showing some armed fighters surrendering weapons and signing peace deals with the Ethiopian government. Firstly, viewers, North Shewa zone of the Amhara region, where yesterday, for the last 2 to 3 days, more than 2 to 3 days, we have been seeing movement, deployment of Ethiopian National Defense Force to this zone. And it started after the death of Girma Yeshitela, Amhara Prosperity Party leader, who was shot dead in North Shore. Yesterday, we reported what happened in Shorobit. No large-scale fighting there. Attempt is being made to find a solution. Ethiopian army is approaching local tribal elders who are trying to mediate between the government, the army, and Fano fighters. And Fano fighters, they returned to Shorobit city, though not all of them. Still, they are based in mountains, forests near Shorobit. And from there, they have been conducting some hit and run attacks on Ethiopian armies, convoys, and positions in and near Shivarobit. Now, in other parts of North Shewa zone, we are seeing massive deployment of Ethiopian army. Deployment and mobilization of Ethiopian army is being seen. That is what is being confirmed by almost all sources, neutral or pro-Amhara. For example, between Shorobit and Debre Sina, large convoys of Ethiopian military can be seen moving along this road. And that is why people protested in Debre Sina yesterday. Why? Because it was feared that these Ethiopian armies knew convoys were going to start major operation against Fano fighters, against local Amhara youth. So people blocked main road in Debre Sina, they protested, they burned tires there. In Gishe, to the west of Ataya, Ethiopian armies units were seen. Shivarobit, I reported yesterday, heavy deployment there around Shivarobit too. In Ansokia Gamza Wareda, where there is Majate, there is Bekoi, heavy deployment, and close to Majate, there was fighting as well. So in all these places which I mentioned and others too, basically we're seeing large-scale deployment of Ethiopian army. Deployment could be a way of threatening Fano fighters that they should surrender. It's not that in all these places there is heavy fighting ongoing. No. Small-scale clashes in some places. Overall situation is under control. Ethiopian army has not launched major operations so far. It is making preparations. It is making deployments of its forces. Operation could start if attempts for reconciliation, for dialogue fail. Fano fighters, they have left main town cities, as I said earlier, and from their bases, they are attacking ENDF convoys, hit and run attacks. That is why road remains closed, because if Fano fighters carry out attacks on ENDF units on the road cannot remain open. Secondly, I think Fano is not like OLA or Tigray forces. Tigray forces were definitely, TDF was turning into a military. It had some areas, it had a stronghold, a central Tigray. OLA has a stronghold as well. It has Valaga. Southern Oromia was a stronghold too, but mainly Valaga. I think Fano does not have a base, or it will not try to form a base. It will operate. It will operate in Shewa, Gondar, Gojam, Volo, but its fighters will keep on changing their positions. So we cannot say that these Fano fighters are based in one area and they are based at this particular place, and from this place they are carrying out attacks. They are based in mountains, forests, but they keep on changing their positions. That is how they fight. So they are a bit different from OLA and Tigray forces. Secondly, viewers, Ethiopian government has decided to stop all funding to Amhara organizations. Funding not from Ethiopian government, but the government is trying to identify those who are funding these organizations which are allegedly spreading hate, which are fueling conflict in the Amhara region. A letter has been written by federal police to banks, and details are being demanded by federal police about the accounts of some Amhara organizations. The Amhara NGOs are Amhara Youth Association, Amhara Students Association, Shewa Peace and Development Association, Amhara Charity and Development Association. And the federal police wants complete details of the accounts of these 4 organizations, who sent money, how much money was sent. Was the money sent from abroad or from Ethiopia? So we could see large scale arrests in coming days if those who are supporting these organizations are from Ethiopia, and most of them would be, I think. So we could see those donators arrested in coming days. Basically, we're seeing that whoever is supporting the Amhara uprising financially is being arrested. Ababa Desta families' accounts have been frozen. Star business groups' accounts frozen. Around 30 businessmen's and companies' accounts were frozen by Ethiopian government a few days ago. Now, the organizations, their accounts are being investigated and could be frozen in coming days. Thirdly, viewers, Prosperity Party is going to hold another meeting today. Reportedly, its executive committee is going to meet. Agenda 2 points: unrest in the Amhara region, where so far no constructive engagement happened between Fano, between hardliners and Ethiopian government. Rather, government is threatening Fano by making large-scale deployments of its forces. Fano fighters are trying to start resistance. So there is basically a stalemate, no large-scale operation starting so far. But before that, we are seeing that Prosperity Part is going to meet to make some decisions. And thirdly, while preparations for operation in Amhara region ongoing, government claims that other armed factions are surrendering. They are handing over their weapons. Yesterday, some Argo fighters were shown by state media that they had surrendered. They had signed a peace deal with the government in Argo zone, Javi Voreda. And then a few hours ago, Ethiopian state media showed some fighters from Benishangal, Gumuz region of Ethiopia. Dozens were shown on state media from Dangor, Voreda, Metakal zone, where more than 70 Benishangal, Gumuz region-based fighters have surrendered. They were shown with their arms. They arrived in Gilgil Palace, welcomed by regional government there. So government is trying to give this impression that armed factions are making peace. They are signing peace deals with the government. Tigray forces surrendered. In BG, Gambela, armed factions signed peace deals. And in Oromia, OLA is in talks with the government. So that is why the groups in the Amhara region, they have no chance of succeeding if they continue their armed resistance. It's basically a message for Fano, for armed factions in the Amhara region. Thanks for watching.